Hi, and welcome to this video. In this video, I am talking about the movies that I watched in the month of March. So let's get cracking. I don't think I really need to do any more explanation than that. We're going to start with the movies that I rewatched this month, and then we'll go on to the movies that I watched the first time and really dive into those and review those. Cool, great. Glad we're on board. Mike and Dave need wedding dates. Date night. Pacific Rim. Yours, Mine, and Ours. The 60s version. Peter Pan. The Broadway version. Lemonade Mouth. Hairspray. From Justin to Kelly. Jumanji. Baywatch. And The Fifth Wave. So now let's talk about the movies that I watched for the first time this month, and the first one is Everything, Everything. This movie came out last year, and I wanted to watch it last year, but I really wanted to read the book before seeing it. So since I finally read the book last month, I got a chance to watch the movie. And I actually enjoyed the movie more than the book, for sure. The ending definitely seemed more believable in the movie than it did in the book. But this is a story about a girl who is severely sick, like she cannot go outside or she will die. Pretty much it. But then she kind of falls in love with the new neighbor who just moved in, and they sort of create this really cute, beautiful romance. Even without having read the book first, the story is kind of predictable, but still very enjoyable. I think the romance is so beautiful. Nick and Amandla, the actors for the two main characters, they did, I think, a really great job. The adult actors I felt were like, okay, they were alright. It also just had a really great soundtrack to it, and yeah, I mean, it's nothing too special, but it's still enjoyable. So I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next movie I watched is A Wrinkle in Time. So I read A Wrinkle in Time last year, and it's considered a classic, and it's a children's book, and honestly, I remember reading it being like, how are they going to turn this into a movie? Because it's so weird and very imaginative and just very out of this world. How do I even explain this story? It's so weird. We follow these kids who wrinkle in time. They wrinkle time. That's the best way to explain it. They wrinkle time. And they go to like all these different worlds and lands, and they have the help of these 3 witches. I don't think they're really witches, but we're gonna call them witches, to try and find her dad who got lost in space somewhere in time and all this stuff, but also trying to defeat the darkness that is trying to take over all of the worlds, including the one she lives on, which is Earth. It's very weird, but it's the main theme of the movie I really did like, which is about feeling powerless, but then realizing and finding the power inside of yourself and the strength inside of yourself and being happy with who you are. That's kind of like the themes of this movie. I think the writing was probably the weakest point of the movie. It was filled with so many cliches that I found myself like rolling my eyes every now and then in the theater. I also felt like a lot of the acting wasn't that great, mainly Oprah and Mindy. I did not think they did a really great job with their acting. Their characters are also so much more flat than the third witch, which was played by Reese Witherspoon. Their characters were just very flat. I thought Zach Galifianakis was definitely the best part of the whole movie. His acting was like really good, and I really wish he had been in it more, but I know his character's only in one scene in the book too. But he was great, and he also had my favorite line in the movie. I did really like the CGI. I thought the CGI was good, and it really like took you in this out-of-world journey that just was so beautiful to look at. Like, I really truly enjoyed that. It felt like there was just like too much going on, though. There was just way too much, and I felt like a lot of the side characters weren't really needed. So I mean, like, I enjoyed it, but I definitely had a lot of issues with it. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. The next movie I watched is Love, Simon. Again, another book to movie adaptation, but this was such a great book to movie adaptation, and I think so far this is my favorite movie of the year. I have already seen this movie in theaters 4 times. 4 times, because I love it that much. This is a very teen coming of age story, but we're following a gay romance and a kid coming out of the closet, and it's like that journey and that story, and it's very good. I read the book for this last year and it made my top 10 books of 2017. I freaking loved this movie. It's not only just a really great book to movie adaptation, but it also is just a really great movie on its own. I felt every emotion watching this movie, and I mean, like, I cried, and even watching it for like the third and fourth times, I still very strongly feel those emotions, and I still cry and I still laugh. I feel like even the 20th time I watch it, I'm still gonna feel the same emotions as strongly as I did the first time. And I like that this movie, it's not so much about like how it ends. Like, if I give you the ending of the movie, like, yeah, it might be a spoiler, but it's not gonna ruin the movie for you, because the movie is mainly about the journey from the beginning to the end. It's mainly about his coming out and people accepting him, but also some people not accepting him, and just, yeah, so I like that it's more about the journey rather than just how it ends. I felt the characters were great and the casting was just perfect. Like, every single role in this movie was perfectly casted, and I felt it had a really great blend of drama and comedy with like the emotional punches thrown in there. It's truly brilliant and no complaints whatsoever. I gave this movie 5 out of 5 stars. The next movie I watched is I Can Only Imagine. This movie is based off of a very popular song in the Christian music genre. It's called I Can Only Imagine, and it's by the band Mercy Me, and it's a very beautiful song. This movie is about the writer of that song and how he came to write this song and just how the song became a huge success. I did not know a lot about his life. I've heard the song many times. I mean, I am a fan of Christian music. I'm going to come out and say it. I do like a lot of Christian music. And of course, I've heard this song many times. It's one of those like #1 songs that just never leaves you. But like hearing the story behind the song and watching the story behind the song, it truly was a journey. Because the song is mainly about forgiveness and grief, and so I love that they put those themes in the movie. So we follow the writer of the story. His name is Bart. He's also the lead singer of Mercy Me. And he came from a very abusive father, and his mom left and he got stuck with his abusive father. But he also found God and joined this band, and they sang songs, and it was just about like their band's journey to become, you know, a really popular, great band. This is just a really great story, but I also love the fact that it's not too evangelical. Like, yeah, it's about Christian music and it has a lot of Christian themes to it, but it doesn't like bang you over the head with it. I mean, I wasn't expecting too much going into this movie, but I was very pleasantly surprised by it. It was very powerful and very emotional, and oh my god, Dennis Quaid. First of all, I did not even know Dennis Quaid was in the movie, but I love Dennis Quaid, and this movie was Dennis Quaid at his best. Like, his acting was the best acting I have ever seen him do. Dennis Quaid played the abusive father, and I truly was terrified by him. I mean, just his facial expressions alone, I could tell exactly what he was thinking or what he was going to do, and I was just like, oh my god, that face, something's gonna go flying, something's gonna get hit. I'm glad that they didn't show too many horrible abusive scenes. Like, the worst you saw was hitting his son over the head with like a plate. You never saw anything worse than that, or else I probably would have been like cringing and like crying and like, oh my god, this is too much. I mean, they explained and talked about some of the like horrible abusive things he did, but they didn't really show the truly horrible stuff, which is good. But Dennis Quaid was phenomenal in this role, and I thought they casted the main guy perfectly as well. I think his name is something Finley, but he had a beautiful voice. They found a guy who looks pretty similar to the real guy Bart, and also a voice very similar to his, and it's such a beautiful singing voice. I love it so much. Like, I literally, every time he sung in the movie, I got goosebumps and chills. Everyone else's acting was like pretty okay. I really liked this story a lot, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next movie I watched is Tomb Raider. This isn't usually the typical kind of movie I watch, but the trailer just looked so epic and so cool that I was like, okay, fine, I'll watch a Tomb Raider movie. And I do like Alicia Vikander, but I definitely got more invested than I thought I would. And I was also just really invested in Alicia Vikander's acting, and I thought it was great. I was like, yeah, very invested in her character. I wanted more Lou Ren, though. I really liked the character of Lou Ren, and I wish he had been in it just a little bit more. I don't really know how to explain Tomb Raider. I mean, if you know Tomb Raider, you know Tomb Raider. Lara Croft, played by Alicia Vikander. She travels through, like, the Dead Sea. I'm not sure what it's called, but it was some sea that will, like, kill you, and she goes on this island, and she's trying to follow her dad's research and try to find basically what her dad was researching, but then she finds that there's this other group of people that are pretty mean and evil, and they're also looking for it too. It's basically just a movie with a lot of fighting and action and adventure and, you know, badass women and secret caves. It was a lot of things that I like. There could have been more action and adventure, to be honest. I could have enjoyed a few more fighting scenes, but still enjoyed it. Yeah, so I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next movie I watched was Pacific Rim Uprising. As you noticed, I watched Pacific Rim this month. It was one of those movies where I didn't think I would like it. Like, it seemed too much like a boy movie. You know, it's about robots fighting monsters. That's literally the premise of the story. But when I watched it, when I watched the first one, oh my goodness, I loved it so much. And so, of course, when they came out with the second one, I was so excited. I was like, yes, give me monsters fighting robots and robots fighting monsters. Just give me, I live for that. I don't live for that. I don't know why I said that. But it is so fun and full of action and adventure. This one not only had robots fighting monsters, but it also had robots fighting robots. I mean, the fighting was really great. The fight scenes, the action, there was a lot of it, and it was really great. The acting wasn't too bad. I felt like it could have been better, but at the same time, I didn't mind it too much because it didn't detract much from the movie, because the movie's mainly about the fighting. That's honestly all it's really about. Charlie Day, of course, was great in his role. I did not see that coming. I should have seen it coming, but I didn't. And of course, the plot did get a little bit repetitive at times. It's just like very similar to the first one. I thought maybe they would try doing something a little bit different, but it was just very repetitive of the first one. But I still had a blast watching this movie. So I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next movie I watched was Game Over Man. This is a Netflix movie that came out in March, and I was very excited about it because I really like their sense of humor. It's very dumb and crude, so I did enjoy the comedy of this movie. I mean, if you don't like that style of humor, then you're definitely not going to like this movie. I mean, I found it funny. I was laughing a lot of times. This movie, the best way I can describe this movie, it's a comedy version of Die Hard. It was way too outrageous, like just way too much, and I feel like it got carried away with itself. But I mean, I still had fun watching it. It could have been better, but I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. The next movie I watched is Midnight Sun, and this kind of has a similar premise to Everything, where we follow a teenage girl who, when she goes out into the sun literally will kill her. She has a huge sensitivity to sunlight, and so she can't really go out into the sun, so she kind of stays inside her house. But she goes out at night, and it's just this romance that happens between her and a boy. I did not like this movie. I was hesitant on seeing it because I really don't like Bella Thorne. I don't think she's a good actress. I don't think she's a good human being, just like as a person. Like, I've seen her in interviews and behind the scenes of some stuff or whatever, and she does not come across as a nice person. So I'm not a huge fan of Bella Thorne, but I I don't know, I just decided to see this movie anyway. It wasn't that great, the acting wasn't great, and to be honest, this is the first time a romance has truly made me gag. Like, oh my god. I think I was just like in the mood for a lighthearted teen romance movie. I'm always in the mood for those movies. So I think that's why I saw this, but it was okay. I mean, the romance part of it truly made me gag. I rolled my eyes, I gagged, I could not handle the romance. And that has like never happened to me watching a romance movie. But this one I just, oh my god, it was horrible. However, I really loved the dad, Rob Riggle playing her dad. I was a little bit skeptical, but he did a really great job. And those were honestly the only scenes that I liked in the movie were between her and her dad. Those were the ones that felt the most real. And I even really liked her friend. Don't remember the friend's name. So I like the scenes between like with her and her friend. Now I'm about to spoil it for you because I don't want you to waste your money to see it, but I need to talk about the thing that really pissed me off about this movie, which was the ending. Basically, the end of the movie, she just like commits suicide and they all just let her do it and watch it happen. Like, they didn't even fight her on it. She was just like, I'd really like to go outside right now. And it was like, of course, like super sunny outside, like it's noon or whatever. They just go, okay. And it's just like, what? And then they like walk her outside, they put her on the boat with him. Like, you literally just let her commit suicide and you're just like watching it happen. Ugh, I was so tempted to just walk out as soon as that happened because like that truly pissed me off. I was like, you're trying to make it seem like this is beautiful, like, oh, she's finally in the sun with the man that she loves and blah blah blah, but I'm like, no, she's literally committing suicide right now and they're letting her do it. Ugh. Anyway, I gave this movie 3 out of 5 stars because I did still enjoy it, but it pissed me off a little bit. And the last movie that I watched this month is Ready Player One. Obviously, I read the book this month, so I'm gonna watch the movie. I didn't think it was a good book to movie adaptation, but I definitely still very much enjoyed the movie. The story behind this movie takes place in the year 2044. Everyone pretty much just like lives in this VR world called the Oasis that James Halliday created. But then once James Halliday dies, he sets out this video that basically says, I've hidden an Easter egg in the Oasis. You have to find 3 keys and open 3 gates, and then once you do that, you will get the egg. And whoever gets the egg first wins like all of his money, which he's like a trillionaire. Wins all his money, gets control over the Oasis, and like all that good stuff. This is taking place 5 years after that video has been released, and still no one has found any key at all. But we follow this kid Wade Watts, who is the first to find a key. We just kind of follow his journey, and it's very action-packed, and there's like a company that is trying to get to the egg first, and so there's a lot of like chasing, and yeah, no, it's it's a very fun time, but as a book to movie adaptation, it's not great. Everything was different from the book. The only thing that stayed the same from the book were the plot and the themes. Everything else was completely different from the book. I mean, there were some changes that I liked from the book, but there were some changes that I was just kind of like, why was that change made? Like, I don't understand. But as a movie on its own, it truly was amazing. It's just one of those things where reading the book first, you can't help but notice the changes from the book to the movie. Maybe if I hadn't read the book, the movie would have definitely been way more enjoyable, but I still very much enjoyed the movie, don't get me wrong. It was still very wild and fast-paced and super action-y and adventure and fun and very like 80s nostalgia. The CGI was incredible, the world was just so immersive, and the Oasis was just so beautiful to visually see, and it's very creative, very stylish, very clever, and it was well-paced. The acting was solid. I thought they did really great job casting the movie. It did go on a little bit too long, especially when there's so much color and animation on the screen. It kind of, I feel like the best way I can describe it is like after the movie I kind of had like a sugar rush. It was still a very fun time and very enjoyable. I just couldn't help but see all of the huge changes they had from the book to the movie. But I still gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars because it was very fun. And that is it. Those are the movies that I watched this month. Please go check out the books that I read this month, as well as my monthly wrap-up where I just talk about my favorite things, favorite moments, TV shows, stuff like that. I'll see you guys later with another video. Bye!